Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about measures of center, or you may understand them or remember them as measures of central tendency, otherwise known as mean, median, and mode. So the mean is just the average. It's the sum of the data points divided by the number of data. It's also abbreviated as an X with a line over it, so that's what the mean is. It's just the average. The median is the middle value, or the mean of the middle two values if the data is arranged numerically, in other words, in order from least to greatest. The mode is the piece of data that appears the most. And then we're also going to talk about the outlier, which I mentioned in the last video as well. Outlier is not a measure of center or of central tendency, but it is data that is far apart from the rest. And I mention this because the outlier can affect the mean. It affects it the most. If you think about it, if you're finding the average and all the numbers are kind of together, like 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then suddenly you have the number 52 in there, that 52 is really going to change what your average is. So outliers can really affect your math when you're doing something. So our measures of central tendency or measures of center, again, are mean, median, and mode. And we don't want to forget about outliers because they can affect what's happening. So let's do an example. And again, this should be familiar to you, hopefully. So if we want to find the mean, median, and mode of some data, and here's our list of numbers. So let's first do mode. Well, 18 and 20 appear twice. So in this example, we have two modes, which is fine. You can have 2 or 3 modes or 1 mode. You can have no mode. Our mode just means it appears the most. The mean. To find the mean, we're going to add everything up. We're going to divide by the number of numbers. Well, in this case, we had 10 numbers, so we added them all up. We divide by 10. We find that our mean is 16. Okay? The median. Remember, it has to be in order from least to greatest. I guess you could do greatest to least, but in any case, it has to be in order numerically. So when we put these in order, and there's 10 of them, so to find your median, the easiest way is just to start at each end and start crossing out. So we can cross out this one, cross out this one, cross out this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. We're left with 2. So your median is going to fall right here. Well, so our median in this case would be 18. Sometimes your median will land right on a number. Sometimes it's going to fall between a number, and you'd have to find the average of those two. Since it fell in between 18, there's no need to find the average of 18. It's just 18. So again, mode is just the number that we see the most. The median, the mean, I added them all up and divided by the number of numbers. In this case, it was 10. For median, I put them in order and then found the middle number. Okay? How do we know which one we want to use when we're looking at our data? So let's look at some information. So the mean. Let's look at some pros and cons, or advantages and disadvantages. So to use the mean to describe the middle of a set of data that does not have an outlier. Remember I said if you've got an outlier, it can sway your data. So advantages to the mean. It's used commonly in businesses, engineering, and computer science. There's only one answer. Once you add everything up and divide by the number of numbers, there's going to be a solid answer. And it's useful when comparing sets of data. A disadvantage, and this is a major disadvantage, it can be swayed and be really affected by extreme outliers. So what about the median? So you don't want to use the mean if you have a big outlier. Median. You would want to use the median to describe the middle set of data if there is an outlier. Advantage. Extreme values, such as outliers, do not affect the median as strongly. It's useful when comparing sets of data, and there's only one answer. When we did that example a minute ago, I was able to find one answer for the median. A disadvantage, it's not as popular as the mean. You hear people talk about the mean or the average a whole lot more than they talk about the median. Okay, so let's talk about the shape of data, mean versus median. We want our mean shape, we're looking for a mound shape or a symmetrical. There's no outliers, and it just looks like this. Have you ever heard of a bell curve? It looks like this. We say something is skewed left, means that we have outliers over here. If something is skewed right, skewed left, it's because our outliers are over here. If it's skewed right, it's because our outliers were over here to the right. So when it's skewed left, it means our outliers were really low numbers. If it's skewed right, it means we had outliers causing us to skew that way. Now, if it's skewed left, our outliers would have been high. so the shape of the data changes it. Now, create a dot plot and histogram. Remember I mentioned those in the last video for the given data. Okay, so remember a dot plot is just a chart consisting of points plotted on a number line, typically using filled in circles. But again, I don't care if you want to use X's or hearts or whatever, as long as you display the data properly. So here's our data. We have 6 students, Brooke, Maria, Katie, Kristen, Nicole, and Jake. We're talking about the number of people in their households. So I drew my line, my number line, which we've been drawing all year, and I labeled it. And so Brooke had 2 people, so I put a number above 2. Maria and Katie both had 3 people, so I put 2 dots above the 3. Kristen had 4, so I put 1 dot above 4. Nobody had 5. And then Nicole and Jake both had 6, so I put 2 dots above 6. Okay, then I also asked you to make a histogram, and remember again, in the last one I talked about a histogram where it's like a bar graph, but there's no intervals. I mean, there's no spaces. So a bar graph, a histogram is a special kind of bar graph that displays the frequency of data that has been organized into equal intervals. No spaces between the bars. So instead of labeling this with specific people names like you would have in elementary school, I just put frequency on my y-axis and number of people across the x. So I put frequencies 1, 2, or 3 because I've never had more than 3 dots up here. And number of people 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so and my interval was up to 2, 4, or 6. Okay, because we had 2, 4, and 6, and that one just encompasses. So here, one person had 2 people, and then we had our 3, our number of people, and then our 6. So you notice that it's displayed a little bit differently than our bar graph. So this is how you would make both a histogram and a dot plot to display this data. We've got 2 people that have 6 household members. We have 2 people that had 3. So we have a dot plot and a histogram, and those are some things that we'll work on creating in class tomorrow.